just tired of asking, the answer always the same. Brothers want something to happen and we must step up for change. I'm tired.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair?
I'm tired.
Who taught you to hate the color of your skin?
But we just playing the game and we don't know none of the rules. That's how we acquiesce, end up with less and look like some fools. I'm tired.
Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose?
I'm tired.
And the shape of your lips?
Welcome back. It's the Black Academic here, your boy Zach. We are here for our second episode of continuing learning about Black Power by Kwame Ture and Charles V. Hamilton. Before I actually get into this, I want to start off by acknowledging all of our ancestors, all of our former leaders, our past thinkers, our current thinkers, scholars, and everybody, because without them, where would we be? I know that everybody here right now, you may not have the luxury and time to actually dive into all these books or to consistently keep your minds on the struggle or our plight or our empowerment on a consistent basis. So I really appreciate all those people that do engage into the struggle every single day. So in the spirit of Black Power and some of the chapters that we're going to get into today, I wanted to shout out a few organizations that are actually out here putting in the work to attain some of the goals that has been placed forth in this book and some of these chapters that we're going to get into. So first, I want to shout out AAPRP, the All African People's Revolutionary Party, that Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah founded. Then Kwame Ture was actually in that organization. He was a strong proponent for it. He helped develop the membership in it and everything. And if you check out any Kwame Ture video post 67, 70-ish, he's gonna mention it, okay? We all know Kwame Ture is big on organize. You know, we already know group solidarity is what we're aiming for, so please check them out. Also check out We Charge Colonialism, founded by Tyranny, the African Esquire. Please check out her page. I'll probably drop the link, have the link down there. Check out her page. She's dropping constant knowledge. So I also wanted to shout out BAP, that is Black Alliance for Peace. I appreciate Ajamu and NETFA for all the work that they do, you know, connecting all these different organizations together, because there is a lot of organizations out here doing similar things, doing similar work, but everybody is in different positions and everybody's local issues are possibly a little bit different, but we all have one goal, which is a unified front together. I also want to shout out the West to West movement. Shout out some of the homies out there in the West Coast, going all the way from Ghana to LA and connecting us all together. And again, conscious development. That's what we're all here together for, so that when we do unify, we're all on the same page. I wanted to give a shout out to I Love Black People. Go ahead and check them out. I got my hat ready. I want to let y'all know that if I'm on here with some attire on, I most likely wanted to be pro-Black. So in the spirit of being pro-Black, I also want to let you guys know, just because I don't think I did it last time, I'll let you guys know I'm most likely going to be touching in books that you're not normally going to see at a Barnes & Noble. You may find them on Amazon, but it's very important and it's crucial to hit up a lot of our Black-owned bookstores. I wanted to give some shout outs to some. If you're here in Atlanta, please check them out. It is important to go to our Black-owned bookstores. They are pillars in our community that are a reservoir of information that is not going to be commonly given to people. So I wanted to shout out to the Black Dot Cultural Center. This place is a community. It's not just a bookstore. Like, when you go there, you feel the vibes. You feel like you're in a family already. Shout out to Madu Bookstore. The woman who owns that store, I love her. Conversations with her, they fill my spirit with inspiration. The Nubian Bookstore, shout out to them as well. I just got some books from there. Also, I haven't been to this one yet, but shout out to Onyx Bookstore here in Georgia as well. So those are the four that I know of personally. If you know of any more, drop them in the comments. Let us know, because I'm always trying to support and go out there and give my dollars to Black people. Also, shout out to Sankofa of DC. I went up there literally and went to visit the bookstore because I heard about it, and I've also had them ship me some books, so I really appreciate y'all. Shout out to SO1 in Cali, because I've also ordered some from y'all as well. So again, if there's any other Black bookstores anywhere that you are, I know that not everybody that's watching this is going to be in Georgia, but please comment them down below so we can actually, you know, start some connections here for other people to go out to these stores so that we can give them as much support as we possibly can. If this is your first video that you're actually watching with me, I want to give like a quick recap or a quick review of the intro and the discussion that I had before, and let you guys catch up. If you already watched, well, you already know this. So recap. Kwame Ture talk about 4 points that we have to, you know, start working towards. 1, stop being ashamed of being black. 2, move into a position to where we can define terms for what we want them to be, not what racist white society wants it to be. 3, move in a position where we can build strength and unity amongst each other. And 4, build a power base so strong that will bring our oppressors to their knees anytime they mess with us. You know, right now we're kind of in a position where we see the cyclic things happen every 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and we go out and protest and realize nothing happens. So this was a 4-point strategy to get us to attaining some power within ourselves so that we make sure this stuff don't keep on happening. We talked about what the book is and what it's not. This book is a political framework and ideology. This book is meant to help us take care of business for us and by us. This book is not a book used for day-to-day usage on how to stop racism. That's not what this book is about. And I ended up ending it off with a quote by Frederick Douglass, which I'm not gonna actually dive into again, but if you wanna hear it, go check out my last vid. Go ahead and thumbs that thing up and get that information. So it was basically just saying that this corrupt, mendacious society is not going to concede any power to anybody until they actually demand it and actually embrace that struggle for it. Because no progress comes without struggle. And he was basically saying, like, this is going to happen either with words or we're going to have to knuckle up, or both. And that's where we left off at. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, folks, here we are now. We're about to dive into chapter 1. It's called White Power, the Colonial Situation. These 2 quotes here are in this chapter. In the beginning of the chapter is Dr. Kenneth B. Clark. If you don't know who this is, please look him up. He's got an experiment out there that I'm pretty sure most of you have heard about. He says, the dark ghettos are social, political, educational, and above all, economic colonies. Their inhabitants are subject peoples, victims of the greed, cruelty, insensitivity, guilt, and fear of their masters. I.F. Stone, the New York Review of Books, August 18, 1966, said, in an age of decolonization, it may be fruitful to regard the problem of the American Negro as a unique class of colonialism and an instance of internal imperialism and underdeveloped people in our very midst. Again, if y'all want to, go ahead and check out that We Charge Colonialism page, because they actually have a good video about internal colonialism. So what exactly is racism? All right, so we have in the book, they said racism is the predication of decisions and policies on considerations of race for the purpose of subordinating a racial group and maintaining control over that group. Okay, so I put this picture right here, which is to just show in the past, you know, this is definitely during that era where, you know, you had whites only water, blacks only water. Okay, this is not a decision us black people made. This was a decision that was made for us. But Webster's definition of racism, fun fact, Webster actually continues to change their dictionary. So when you were younger and you saw that one version where it said racism is like the idea of thinking one race is superior to another, just thinking like that's not just racism. Okay, so if you check it out right now, Webster's definition 2A says the systemic oppression of a racial group to the social, economic, and political advantage of another. 2B says a political or social system founded on racism and designed to execute its principles. Sounds very similar, okay? Got one saying that this is the predication of decisions, policies, to subordinate another group of people based off their race and control them. And Webster is finally catching up in 2020, dog. In 2020, this book was written in 1967. Come on now. Hold up. Pause. All right, so Noah Webster, yeah, that guy that's in the name Merriam-Webster on your dictionary that you probably got in your house that you ain't opened up in years, yeah, that guy right there. He was actually an American nationalist that believed that American English was better than anybody else's in this entire globe, and thought that he needed to set them apart from everybody else, and that it was going to supersede every other European nation. So what the man did was sit there and come together and help out create another form of systematic oppression, because he was saying that, look, this is the way that this is the standard, this is the way it needs to be. And again, going back to the power to define, dictating the way of people communicate is dictating a way of people think. Think of the book 1984. If you haven't read it, check it out. If not, we're probably going to get to it anyways. And basically, Noah Webster became an authoritarian that did not want to be tolerant of anybody else. Well, that was your fun fact about Noah Webster. All right, so racism is both covert and overt. Okay, and it takes two closely related forms. We call these individual racism and institutional racism. If you've been pretty socially conscious this past year, you've definitely seen this or heard of it, came across it. Again, we have scholars who have been saying this, and people said this even before Kwame Ture and Charles V. Hamilton were, but this is their version or their way of articulating it for us. So individual racism is like an individual white person with an individual black person. Then once you get into institutional racism, that's like white community versus black community. For example, you have the white terrorists bombing the church, 16th Street bombing, church bombing. That was an individual act against black people. Then you have systemic, which is like redlining, the prison industrial complex, COINTELPRO, Jim Crow, all those things coming together. I'm actually going to drop a link below that you guys can actually go look up COINTELPRO on the FBI's website. Yeah, when you first click on it, it's going to say that like something along the lines of like, please note that the information found in these files may no longer reflect the current beliefs, positions, opinions, or policies currently held by the FBI. Lies. All right, so I just wanted to put this in here for those that don't have the time. But if you do actually go to the FBI's website and click on the Black Extremist link and go to the first file that they have, on page 69, they have this 4-point plan to prevent us from actually empowering ourselves and attaining black power. Number 1 was to prevent coalition amongst us. Number 2 was to prevent the rise of a black messiah, such as Elijah Muhammad, Martin Luther King, or Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael himself. Number 3 was to prevent violence. And number 4 was to prevent any of our black leaders from gaining respectability, not only from their own people, but from potential allies. But I'm also going to drop a link below that, which is going to actually talk about, it's a TED Talk by Curtis Allen. He's a professor, but he was actually stopped and interrogated and given a felony on his way to a flight just because he had written a book about the Black Panther Party. So please look up COINTELPRO. I don't have a time to really go into that, but please check it out. I'm gonna go ahead and throw some images on here to show you and everything. But these people were the FBI, literally had a secret intelligence or counterintelligence that was purposely trying to screw over groups of people that were trying to do good, i.e. the Black Panther Party. For anybody that wants to say that the Black Panther Party eventually became this, and this, and was selling drugs and all that stuff, where do you think they got the drugs from? Okay, so it also goes on and say that most respectable individuals are going to claim that they're not racist. And I'm pretty sure all of y'all have experienced that before. I'm not racist. I got cousins that are black. I'm not racist. My best friend is black. Okay, so obviously they're not going to admit to this stuff. Yet, the things that they do in the society perpetuate and support the activity that helps the institutional racism thrive. Individuals may not represent the society, but their institutions do. So a quote in this book by Charles Silverman, is when he wrote In Crisis in Black and White, he actually says, what we are discovering in short is that the United States, all of it, North as well as South, West as well as East, is a racist society in a sense and to a degree that we have refused so far to admit, much less face. The tragedy of race relations in the United States is there is no American dilemma. White Americans are not torn and tortured by the conflict between their devotion to American creed and their actual behavior. They are upset by the current state of race relation, to be sure, but what troubles them is not that justice is being denied, but that their peace is being shattered and their business interrupted. Okay. Now, this is again a white guy right here saying, like, yo, they're not really upset about justice. They just mad that you know, acting like something's wrong. So I wanted to put this in here just because most people, we like to say that, black people are not a monolith, right? That's what we like to say. However, politically, white people for the most part do move as a monolith. Okay. And again, we can debate on this, but whether it's red or blue, that is hand in hands, that is their monolith. That is their monolith, because every year we see that both sides don't necessarily cater to our true wants and needs, desires, and everything. So they put in the book here, it says, when faced with demands from black people, the multi-faction whites unite and present a common front. Then they said a large Negro population is politically both an asset and a liability. The larger the Negro population, the greater the perceived threat in the eyes of whites, and thus the greater the resistance to broad civil rights laws. This was James Q. Wilson in The Negro in American Politics. Then the last quote I have here says, a group interest does exist, and it crosses all the supposed lines when necessary, thereby rendering them irrelevant. You will see throughout history that Democrats and Republicans are going to work together at some point. They may say like, oh, I'm over here for big government, healthcare and all this stuff. And the other one's like, no, small government, forget y'all and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to non-white people, they're like this. When it comes down to non-American things, they're like this. Have you ever seen, besides World War II, have we ever really been in a war with their motherlands? With any of the countries in their motherland? No, we haven't. It's not going to happen. They're a monolith. Okay. So our dilemmas are not on their list of priorities. Oppression has become their tradition. So basically, they move as a collective. We're just now trying to get to that point, but they already do it inherently because it's America. It's American values. Those oppressive values work for them. So they've already benefited from their privilege so long that they really believe this is their God-given right. And if you want proof of this, check out a video where Kwame Ture is actually debating this white supremacist. And it's like Kwame Ture, Black Power versus White Power. Just search it up on YouTube. You might get a good laugh because the man knows he's racist. Okay. So the monolith continues. So I just wanted to put this in here to relate it to present day issues. So the people that may think that it's not a monolith, here's some possible evidence for you. According to Reuters, polls in this month, I got this from a quote. So it says this month, this was actually like in June, I believe. I'm gonna have the link in the description again. So only 1 in 5 respondents agreed that the United States should use taxpayer money to pay damages to descendants of enslaved people in the United States. Now, again, most people like to say we need to have allies. Yes, you need allies, but are they really your allies if they really don't see the value that your people really brought to this country and all the pain and struggle and strife that your people went through just to give them what they have and don't see the correlation of their wealth coming from that? So here we are. I put some quotes in here. Again, this was from Reuters, so I will have the link in the description. So one guy named Burgess Owens, he's like, look, I'm not a racist, and I think it's an insult for someone to pay me or anyone else strictly based on the color of their skin. This happened in the past, okay? Again, welfare was not originally for us. We could not originally get welfare. The original welfare queens, as Nixon and all of them would like to say, was their women.
Okay, so like it ain't what they like to think it is. You know, they just want to flip the script now that they have power or more power. So what do they mean is what he says. So those who say they care about slavery should be leading the charge to save the 30 million men, women, and children enslaved today around the world by sex trafficking and other evils, said Owens, an African American, bro. Bro, okay, this is distracting type of conversation. Like, this is something that, like, so you mean to tell me that I can't do both at the same time? Like, so I supposed to say one is irrelevant because it was in the past and everything, and now I need to be just solely focused on this? Now we should all be focused on all of it, okay, not just this one thing. Then the Republican majority, Mitch McConnell, you know, I know y'all know about this fool. He criticized the idea last year, saying that none of us currently living are responsible for slavery, which he calls America's original sin. So if that's America's original sin, but you're the descendants of those sinners, then inherently you are responsible because you benefited from it and you have the power to change it. Okay, I'm not sitting here saying I want all your stuff, but dog, you wouldn't have had this without us. So asked about reparations during the 2019 Democratic presidential debate. So again, people think that these are your allies. So Bernie Sanders, he's sitting there saying like, what does that mean? I don't think anyone's been very clear. Bro, it's simple. Give me the money. Give me the money. Give me the loot. You know, even MLK said this in his later days. Give me the money. Quit playing around. You know, what do you, it's not that hard to do some math. Mathematicians can knock this out in no time. What are you talking about, Bernie? So he says, later on, it goes on to say that doubters may not have had slaves yesterday or a decade ago or 100 years ago, but any wealth they hold or expect to gain only exists because of the institution of slavery. Thank you, Jackson Lee. Reparations have been used in other circumstances to offset large moral and economic debts. It was paid to the Japanese Americans. It was interned during World War II and to the families of the Holocaust survivors of Germany. And they added this in here where it says blacks in post-apartheid South Africa. But many people don't know that the former slave owners, these demons, got reparations, dog. Look it up. In England, I'm gonna have to drop another description, another link in the description. Them fools in England got reparations, and people here in the States got reparations for each one of the people that they held captive. Okay, so that is divisive talk. Don't act like this hasn't been done before. Now, I know this may be a little jumbled up in here and everything, but I wanted to give examples of each. So we have politically, it's split up by direct rule and indirect rule. So direct rule is like clear and visible rule over people. So this is where you're going to think, look at that top left, you're looking at police, or look at that bottom right, you're looking at slave patrol. Now the slave patrol is essentially where the police came from. We didn't have police in 1600. We didn't have police in 1700. We had slave patrol. That's what you had. And then it turned into that. So that's an example of direct rule. Now, indirect rule is when an oppressor picks a leader of a subjugated group to perpetuate and enforce the institutional forms of oppression. This is the white power structure rules the black community through a local black person. So example, politicians. We got a lot of politicians. Again, high places, black faces in high places do not mean progression. Okay. These people we're talking about this now. I put in here relation. I put it in the bottom left, a little picture right here that was to give that image. But no matter who's got them chains, the institution is what is benefiting from this. The institution is what's really oppressing you and whatnot in this. And in the top right, I have SARS right there because again, the police were actually placed there by their former colonizers. But who still had authority over those police? The colonizers. So then that trickles all the way down, and then you end up having SARS. So all of this is still connected. Again, It doesn't matter if you're in the Caribbean, Africa, Brazil, and so South Latin America, here in the United States. We're all on the same team here fighting the same system of oppression. Okay. Now, Black politicians, they said that they can't really be relied upon to make forceful demands on behalf of Black people. They're more loyal to the political party instead of the people. These leaders are then only as powerful as their white kingmakers permit them to be. So here's what we're saying, or here's what they're saying here, that we have to reject some of these ideas that some of these people have when they're in those positions of power. Like, for instance, I think Obama recently came out talking about that you lose people when you come out with quick statements saying defund the police. It's like, no, you just, you out the racist for realizing that they're not going into context and not being open to understanding what that actually means. So these are the type of people that like to say, you have to play ball to win the game, but no, it doesn't work that way, because they got the goal, the hoop, the ball, and all that stuff. So we can't play ball, because that only works as an individual, as they state in this book. It works as an individual. It's the safety of the individual that person is worried about. They're not worried about the progression of everybody else. That tactic doesn't help the masses. They say that people may have to do that so that they don't lose their position. But if you're not using that position to help your people, what are you there for? You're just perpetuating the system. You're perpetuating the destruction of your own people. So what are you there for? So those folks that are trying to represent us, or they supposed to represent us, they don't really represent us. Therefore, they say that believing they can truly represent Black people is impossible if matters of positional security are at play. So if that's on your forefront, just worrying about keeping safe, I still need to have this job and everything, you're never going to be able to truly help out those that you say that you represent. So they also say that Black people that want to play colonial politics and don't say things straightforward, you're misleading the white community into thinking that you have this, they have the sanction of Black people, and the way that things are moving is the way that we want them to be, but that's really not it. And those who would assume the responsibility of representing Black people in this country must also be able to throw off the notion that they can effectively do so and still maintain a maximum amount of security. That's a quote from the book. So you can't necessarily challenge the system thinking that it's going to reward you. That you get rewarded by playing into the system. So to actually try to fight it is common sense. It's not going to work that way. You're trying to beat something up. You're trying to fight something. It's not going to sit there and help you fight it. So the electoral system is a struggle. They say that it is seldom pointed out that this minority is geographically located so as to create potential majority blocks. That strategic location being an ironic side effect of segregation, but Black people have never been able to utilize fully their numerical voting strength. Where we could vote, the white political machines have gerrymandered Black neighborhoods so that the true voting strength is not reflected in political representation. That's how you have Georgia being red for so long, and we just now got it flipped to blue because we finally started coming together and realizing this system and these numbers and whatnot and how to actually play it. Again, it's most likely going to be gerrymandered up again, but we learn from the past and we continue. Moving on to the economic situation. So I'll put the quote in there again. Historically, colonies existed for the sole purpose of enriching the colonizer, so to keep economic dependency on the colonizer, okay? All right, so economically, this is what happened. Missionaries went into Africa and said that they were there to help, try to help civilize these people. But what really ended up happening was they took their books while they were looking up to God. They took their resources while they were looking up to God. I think they have a famous quote where they said that when they came in, they gave us the Bible. When they left with the land. So essentially, they would come in, take the resources, fix them up, turn them into what we have now in, cell phones, and then in turn flip it and sell it. So these exporters came into, as they say, the exporters came into the ghetto from outside, bleed it dry, and leave it economically dependent on the larger society. The last quote says, their basic motivation is personal profit, and their basic impact is the maintenance of racism. Okay, that is how this works. The institutional racism helps contribute to the production and profit that their goal is. This whole capitalistic system is its value is profit. That's all it really is. So moving on from there, I wanted to just point out though, for an example of this would be Congo. We can't get our cell phones without coltan and cobalt that's being taken out of the Congo. We have child labor out there digging in this mess all day. I've read that stories that people literally working there sun up to sundown for this stuff. For us over here to live in luxury. Where do you think you get your tires from? Have y'all heard of a rubber tree? Where do you think a rubber tree is? It sure is not here in the United States. So they create a system which dehumanizes the individual and perpetuates his dependency upon them. And this essentially creates a paternalistic attitude towards the subjugated, so that the masses of people that don't understand how this system works, they think that they're doing a good job in helping out people in Africa, but in reality, they're really not. So some evidence of this economic subjugation to the ghettos here in the United States, that they found was that, one, the MENS, which was Massive Economic Neighborhood Development Organization, they just found evidence that certain stores would raise their prices like up to 10 cents or more whenever the people's welfare checks would come in. Then they also found out that the Small Business Administration, they found out in a 10-year period prior to 1964, there was only 7 loans made to Black people. 10 years, 7 people, 7 loans. That's crazy. And they also posted here saying that the groups which have access to the necessary resources and the ability to affect change benefit politically and economically from the continued subordinate status of the Black community. So not every white American consciously oppresses us. They don't need to. The system is already set up for them. That institutional machine is alive. Again, the values here keep this wheel spinning. So whenever Black people demand for change, and it becomes too loud, then indifference is replaced by active opposition based on fear and self-interest. So think of when people are saying like silence is compliance. The line between purposeful suppression and indifference blurs. People know that this system subordinates a people. People know that economically this system causes others to have an extreme wealth gap between one another. How can any community thrive when they have no wealth, when the system keeps them away from having wealth? This system of oppression has created a poverty cycle. So where they say that you get denied good jobs, therefore you're stuck with low income, therefore you're unable to attain good education, which essentially makes it where you can't have a good job. Without a good job, no income. No income, no good education. No good education, no good job. And it just keeps on going. So the colonial power structure, they say, clamped a boot of oppression on the neck of Black people, and then ironically said, they're not ready for freedom. Left solely to the goodwill with the oppressor, the oppressed would never be ready. And no one accepts blame. They never do. And there is no white power structure doing it to them. So moving on to the social impacts, this is essentially the hardest part, because it's one thing to be psychologically together, as a cohesive unit, understanding what you're dealing with and fighting that as a cohesive unit. But whenever they there's a psychological impact that makes you scared, have fear, to feel less than you. It's hard to build that unity among one another when you look at your brother and you think that they're nothing as well. Okay, when you look at yourself in the mirror thinking you're nothing, that reflects to your brother and your sisters out here. Now, we went through chattel slavery, Jim Crow, segregation. We're currently in the prison industrial complex. There is a social atmosphere that has been created that anywhere across this globe, people now look at Black people as less than, even amongst themselves. So they put in a quote here: at all times then, the social effects of colonialism are to degrade and dehumanize the subjugated Black man. White America's school has taught the subject to hate himself and to deny his own humanity. Racist assumptions of white superiority have been so deeply ingrained into the fiber of the society that they infuse the entire functioning of the national subconscious. Again, this is subconscious. People don't have to choose to be racist anymore. It's already, the wheel's already in motion. The last quote I'll put in here from President Woody Wilson, okay? This man was sure enough racist. He actually fired all of his Black staff and put in nothing but white folks. He said, here's a vast laboring, landless, homeless class, once slaves, now free, unpracticed in liberty, unschooled in self-control, never sobered by the discipline of self-support, never established in any habit of prudence, excited by a freedom they did not understand, exalted by false hopes, bewildered and without leaders, and yet insolent and aggressive, sick of work, covetous of pleasure, a host of dusky children untimely put out of school. This was a president of the United States. And the thing is, he doesn't add in the context of, one, why were they landless? Why were they homeless? You. Why were they slaves? You. They were free even before that. You know, you captive these were prisoners of wars, and you brought them over here. You did this. This isn't a people that don't know how to work hard, that doesn't understand liberty, because we are fighting for that consistently. It says unschooled in self-control. Fool, do you not understand if we had no self-control, your ancestors would have had they throats cut in their sleep? You lucky that we have self-control, that never sobered in discipline of self-support, never established in any habit of prudence, excited by freedom they did not understand. We definitely understand freedom. It's our oppressors that don't. It's our oppressors that don't understand freedom, that don't know how to give. One, they can't give it, but embrace it themselves. Because when you are an oppressor, you are dehumanizing people, you are dehumanizing yourself. Therefore, you are locking yourself in a chamber. You're enslaving yourself to ignorance, to being less than, being an incomplete person, because now you don't see other people as humans. And so you're no longer, that's another story. But when you get down to that, you're no longer a human yourself whenever you can treat another human like that. Now you have a bunch of people who have internalized what their oppressor has placed upon them. This affects our group identity. Okay, so for instance, this gets into where Malcolm's talking about, bro, who told you to hate your hair, to hate your skin? Who told you these lies? We get to the point where once you are immersed in that white world, you start cultivating white desires, where you also want to become one of the bourgeoisie. And this person who does ceases to identify himself with Black people, yet is obviously unable to assimilate with whites. He becomes a marginal man, living on the fringes of both societies in a world largely of make-believe. This was by Professor E. Franklin Frazier in The Black Bourgeoisie. And the people that want to become the Black bourgeoisie, these are people that believe that the race question is beneath them. You know, you can't hide from your skin. Therefore, when you are just trying to assimilate to something that is not culturally yours, that is not you, that means that you are becoming what they are. So that means we have to redefine what it means to be an American. To be American cannot mean to be white and to be male, to be a Christian, because that's what it has been historically.
All right, so just for time constraints, we just now finished up chapter 1. I'm going to stop the video here and make a part 2 for chapter 2, which is Black Power and the need for it. If anybody is enjoying this video, enjoying the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share to somebody else, some other intellectual that may also enjoy it. And remember, it starts with us. Each one teach one, iron sharpens iron. Peace.
Just waiting for the day that my people recognize revolution never end, just ain't televised. I'm just tired of asking the answer always the same. Brothers want something to happen and we must step up for change. I'm tired. I'm tired. But we just playing the game and we don't know none of the rules. That's how we acquiesce, end up with less and look like some fools. I'm tired. I'm tired.
Tell him how you feel.